All right, Bob, thanks a lot. I want Chris to kind of address something for us, and that is the fact that he has this contract. It was my understanding in business that once you retire, you know, the contract comes to an end. So why is that still an issue?
Lynn, here's why it's still an issue. Brett is signed through 2010. He retires. He then applies for reinstatement.
But let's stop right there. He retires. Doesn't that get Green Bay off the hook? Why would he still be under contract?
The contract still lasts. The NFLPA collective bargaining agreement allows a player to retire and gives them opportunities to come back with the contract in place.
Because you know what? I'd like to retire from June to September.
Now you're on to something.
And then come back when the weather changes.
But here's the really interesting point. Green Bay is going to have to make a very quick decision. Commissioner Goodell is eventually going to approve this reinstatement. Green Bay then has 24 hours to either cut Brett Favre or put him on the active roster, meaning they have to drop someone else. At that point, they can trade him.
Ooh, so someone could get dropped if he comes back.
Absolutely. But
because they got a salary issue over there because
absolutely.
they can't fit his salary in with everybody else. So they got to get the machete out and
But
get
see,
some
this is
guys.
again where I'm confused. You just said his salary or his contract ran to 2010. Wasn't he being paid anyway?
No, because he retired. But what it does, Lynn, it
So
protects,
he retires, he doesn't get paid, and he's under contract.
Yeah, the rule
I need
actually,
a lawyer.
the rule actually
I have a
protects the
lawyer.
I'm here to
team
help.
too.
I'm here to help.
Because if you're a high-paid player that's playing for a bad team, and you just say, I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to reinstate myself and go to a good team, it protects the teams more often than not.
Absolutely.
In this scenario, it's blowing up in the team's face, and that's the Packers' problem. But most of the time it does.
Any old player. We're talking about someone who's been in the game for 17 years,
Has
made some great plays, won a Super Bowl. So he is a recognizable figure in the league. So they don't just want him out there to do whatever. The Packers still...
As Greg said earlier in the show, they don't want him on their team, but they don't want him on another team. Much like you don't want your ex-girlfriend dating anybody else.
What Green Bay's at risk here is the fact that if Brett were to come back and they play him and he retires again and Aaron Rodgers leaves in free agency at the end of his contract, they could be in a position without a quarterback.
No quarterback.
Professional football is about personnel.
And then in reality, with Brett retired, they could be without a quarterback too. Because Aaron Rodgers might not be able to play.
We won't know. And we won't know until he plays.
You just don't know. Let's go back to the telephone lines. Let's listen to the ladies' perspective on this. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm glad to have another lady here on the show with me.
This is my first phone call ever in any show ever. How
Well,
are you doing?
we're glad to have you with us. Tell me what you think.
I'm thinking you should be held accountable for your actions. You're 38 years old. You did not choose this overnight. You thought about it. You chose to retire. The retiring and coming back, whether it's music stars, Roger Clemens retired, come back. Look what he's going through now. His whole steroid thing, what have you. I just think you're not 8, you're 38. You should be accountable for your actions. You say you're going to do something, I just think that you should do it, period.
But people change their mind, Dawn. You know that. I mean,
Yes,
if you look
they
at things and you
do,
say,
but
hey,
at
I have another
38,
chance to make $12 million.
you're an adult. You've been through it. You didn't just start out.
All right, well, let me ask you this. If you had a chance to come back and make $12 million again.
I wouldn't have left in the first place.
See, women are so smart. Thank you.
They don't ever change their mind.
No, women never change.
I don't think it's a money issue for Brett Favre. He was upset because he was somewhat pushed out at the end of last season. He was almost pushed into retirement, and the Packers, their first response was, we made a decision when Brett retired that we were going to move on without him, and that's the future of our team.
I don't know if I agree with that he was pushed out, though. I don't know if I agree with that.
I'm feeling like I get mixed messages here because on one hand it was like, well, they went to him and they said, we want you back, you come back, and then on this side you say he was pushed out.
You don't draft quarterbacks.
I don't know who to
just asked him,
believe.
what are you going to do? They went down there to talk to him. I think they wanted to know, Brett, what are you going to do? What do you really want to do? And if that's what you're going to stick to, okay, fine, now we'll move on. And I think that's what happened.
I agree. I'm sorry, Gary, but I agree that he is being disrespectful. He is. He's forcing the issue. He's probably a little bit out of line. But that being said, he has the right to do this. And the Packers are making this a bigger problem by not just letting him go or trading him or
But Greg, they can't.
Well, they don't want to
well, no,
let the bad guy.
they just let him go.
But they
But
could
they
trade
can't
him.
trade
That's
him.
their
They can't trade him.
That's their worst move, just to cut him
Yeah,
and let him go.
I know, because he'll go to Chicago, and Chicago will go to the Super Bowl, and that's what
very well.
they're guarding.
And then
him.
what are the fans going to think of them if they just go, okay, go to Chicago and then do whatever? I think the fans want to see where the team's loyalty is also.
Yeah,
and
sure.
if they've moved on, then okay.
But you heard Katie Marks say from Green Bay earlier in the show that even the fans are split right down the middle. That some are looking to hold on to the great legacy of Brett Favre. Others are looking at Aaron Rodgers and saying, well, let's move to the future.
I think
That's
the
because they're
team,
tired of his act. He's done this over a period of years where it was like, 3 months every summer. Is Brett going to retire? Is he not going to retire? I mean, enough. You
After all,
like,
retire.
and the team doesn't want to be the bad guy. They want Brett to be the bad guy and let him play himself out.
But they liked his act last January. They loved his act.
I was
in
gonna
Green
say,
Bay
don't you
last
think
year.
Championship.
Maybe in March he was just tired.
No,
Like
no,
he
this
was,
is Green Bay.
he had come so close. Maybe he was just emotionally drained, and he made the wrong decision. And now that he's had time to step back, reflect, he feels better physically, mentally, the whole thing. And he says,
But he said he gave everything he had.
Yeah.
You've given everything you had. You're done.
Maybe he
It's
found
empty.
more in
It's over.
Mississippi. Oh, look, I have more.
I didn't know where to look. Here it is. I have